Our Plant Stories has been nominated as a finalist in the Independent Podcast Awards in a new category called Environment and Natural World. I'll let you know how we get on. Thanks to all those who are regular supporters of the podcast with their commitment to buying a monthly coffee. And to Anne, who also sent some caffeine my way this month, all of which goes towards paying for this podcast, the hosting platform and the editing programme. The link is in the show notes. And now, a plant story. Welcome to Our Plant Stories. And I wanted to start with a thank you to Laura and Linda for supporting the podcast by buying me a coffee on the website. And Linda has also shared where in the UK we can buy a Peasgood's Nonsuch apple tree. I'll put the link on the website. If you are enjoying these podcasts and want a bit of a behind-the-scenes view, I send out a weekly blog every Friday. So you'll get snippets about what I'm recording, the stories I'm following. Just go to the homepage and you can join. Today we have a bonus episode. Back in programme 8, we were in the Manor House Garden in Hemmingford Grey, not far from Cambridge, looking at some wonderful topiary crowns and orbs which had been shaped for Queen Elizabeth's coronation. Today, let me take you to Levens Hall in the Lake District, and topiary that was designed in 1694 when William III, known as William of Orange, was on the throne. I hope if you haven't already listened to the Topiary plant story, this will inspire you to do so. You'll get plenty of advice there on how to plant a yew bush and shape it, but I will share with you here what seems to be like one key piece of advice from head gardener Chris Crowder, who has spent a lifetime doing this.
It's far easier to do abstract shapes than geometric shapes, and the worst possible thing anybody can do is matching pairs of geometric shapes, or a series of them down an avenue or whatever, or a line of things that all are meant to look the same, because they never ever will. So those are the usual rules. Oh, and the other thing is generally don't tell anybody what it is. Because once you say, oh, that's a bird or that's a space rocket, I'm sure you'll get never-ending comments and helpful suggestions how to make it more so.
So we first talked when we were making the programme about topiary, and Lucy Boston had come to this garden as a child, and that is what had inspired her when she created the garden at the manor to plant yew bushes, and then to create these extraordinary crowns and orbs for the Queen's coronation. And you said, in the autumn, we clipped them. And I thought, oh, that sounds exciting. Mm-hmm. Can I come and take a look? And here we are.
Absolutely. Well, we've started clipping, and you could have come any time over the next month or two, because we start and then we just carry on. We work our way around the lot. But I should say, well, you were on about inspiration. I came here, I've been here 37 years, not quite as a child when I came here, but I've been here a long time. And after a little while, I was inspired to plant some more. And just where we stood, these are some of the ones that I planted as little 18-inch high toddlers. Maybe 15, 20 years ago now, and as you can see, they're bigger than us and on their way to adding to the collection here. Everybody knows that I'm the one that clips them every year. I know where I'm going with them. It's that sense, and it's the same with some of the other ones, that I know where I'm going with them, and it's better, I think, if for that sense of continuity, if the same person clips them each year, because you know what changes they are and you get used to them, and can coax them in the right direction, perhaps, because nature's always trying to go one way with the topiary, and you're trying to make something else of them. So it's good if the same person clips these things each season.
So how old were you when you first came then?
I think I was 23. I was nobbut a lad, as they say around here, and I came as head gardener. And I found my feet, and I've carried on.
So you've stayed here?
Yeah.
Ever since?
Ever since, yeah. In fact, we've just come into the garden just in this corner. That's the house I live in. That's the head gardener's house, and that's where I've lived with my family through that time. So a very short commute into the garden, a step out the door, and I'm here.
Can you remember your first impression when someone opened the gate and you walked in here as a 23-year-old?
No. I say if it didn't happen this morning, I don't remember at all. I'm getting a bit like that. I expect I was just amazed and astounded, and I do remember that I didn't think I was either up to it or could be part of that historical thing. Though that's what I wanted to do, is a garden with some history and some continuity, and that's what I have done. I'm the continuity here now for quite a long time.
Tell me about continuity here. This is a garden with incredible continuity, isn't it?
Yeah, the garden was laid out in the 1690s by Guillaume Beaumont, a French garden designer. He came here as the first head gardener, and they built the house I live in. That was known as Beaumont's house. It was built for him, and I'm the 10th head gardener since Beaumont, so there's continuity. And the trees he planted, the pathways, we've got records of all this in the house, dusty receipts of what they paid everybody for doing every little bit in the garden, and beds being dug out and the trees being planted. So we've got the history, and the trees, we've had that hands-on continuity with the garden. They've been clipped for 300 odd years now, and I've done my bit for the last 30 odd.
And are these the oldest clipped topiary trees you would find in this country?
I think, yes, it's believed they are. That it's the oldest topiary garden, or the best, or the most extensive. Because not for so much it wasn't particularly special at the time. There's huge craze really for topiary, these clipped trees, but in the 1690s, but like most fashions, they change, and with clothes it goes quite fast, with gardens it goes slower. But by the 1700s came along, nobody wanted this old style anymore. They pulled them out in favour of capability brown landscape parks with lakes and trees and a very natural look. So this has become a thing because it's a survivor.
Why did it survive? Why did it not happen here?
They never changed it here, in a way, because the eldest son of the house, he predeceased his father. It went to the daughter. She was very fond of it, but also she married and ended up at a bigger house somewhere else. So it's that family chance that in the big house was another house elsewhere in the country. That's where they were following fashion and changing the garden around. Here was a sort of backwater. It was either somewhere they visited for a month or two, or it's somewhere they put in an aging relative. It wasn't the main event for the family, so there was no impetus to change it. And so it actually went through the whole of the 1700s not being particularly fashionable, but not being particularly changed. It just dribbled through. And by the time the early 1800s came along, I think there was a revival of sorts in old things. People wanted to make themselves history if they didn't have it, and that came into gardens as well as everything else. But here it was the real deal. It wasn't a recreation. It was a survivor from an earlier time, even then.
I love this one, by the way.
This one here. I've done this side. This is the great umbrella. This is the biggest topiary tree in the garden, and some would say the oldest, but it's certainly part of that 1694 planting. It's got a much bigger trunk than the rest because it's got a bigger top, and that's what we find. The more top, the faster it grows trunk, and around the base of the trunk there's a hexagonal seat. So it looks like an old-fashioned umbrella. It's called the Great Umbrella, and actually acts like an umbrella. You can sit on there and stay dry when it rains, because it sort of sheds the rain for a little while. Not forever, but certainly summer showers and the starts of winter rain, you can stay dry in there. And I have clipped this side already. We've been up the hydraulic lift, and it's about 9 metres high. Start at the top and work my way down. And tomorrow I think I'm going to drive the machine round to the other side and have a go from there.
How long will it take you to clip this one in total, just out of the hours?
It probably takes, this one's 2 days. It's a lot. It takes a day. I've done one side, it was all day job, and the other side is probably the best part of another day. Most of the pieces of topiary here are about half a day or a day each, and then there's great lengths of hedge going off into the distance that our clipping doesn't stop when we've finished on the topiary garden, and neither does the work. One or two of them have had new names added, if you like. Somebody said, oh, it looks like such and such, and it sticks. In a way, it's just a way for us to navigate around the garden. But we've got Homer Simpson is one of these big ones up there, and Tweedledum and Tweedledee. We've got a couple of pyramids, a top hat, somebody called that Darth Vader once, and the name stuck. And I'm just working away on the Henry Moore sculpture, which was a lot more formal once, but it's sort of rounded off and it's changing its shape slightly.
They are enormous. I mean, they really are like a presence in the garden, aren't they?
Yeah, absolutely. And yes, they're the permanent things in the garden. They are here when we clear the beds. Obviously there's flowers here in the summer, there's visitors, there's us lot. And the topiary is always here, and it's always here through the generations. You and me are here now. They've been there for centuries, and they've watched the people walk around underneath them and look up at them, and yeah, I think it's that if you like, the social history of these. They aren't just trees that were planted 300 years ago to form a landscape and we admire them. They've actually people have worked on them every year, every season for that whole period of 300 years. So we're the last in the line of doing that, and we'll hand it on in the fullness of time to the next generations.
So do you feel a bit like you're standing on the shoulders of other gardeners who've gone before you?
Oh, absolutely, yes, yeah. We're doing our bit now, and these shapes are because somebody's done the same thing through their lifetimes before, and it's whole lifetimes that it's that sort of scale of things here. So the garden changes very, very slowly. Even these box pieces, they date back to the 1820s, I think, and they're human sized. I quite like some of the shapes that are more the scale of people. In fact, that one's called Queen Elizabeth, and we see her arm sticking out, and maybe a crown on her head and that sort of thing. So we like clipping those, but 200 years, and you can see those in old paintings and etchings and that sort of thing in the house from that era, and they're the same shape, the same place, and they've hardly changed. You'd think they grow a bit bigger, but them in particular, they don't seem to have changed at all. They seem amazingly timeless.
Are there others that have changed over time?
Absolutely. I mean, the one I'm working on now, we call it the Henry Moore. Some of these things flop out over time. They can't support the weight, and they start to lose the shape, and we can either fight and fill them full of bits of wire and twist them together and continue to fight against nature, or we can let them just become looser, and so that's particularly what we did with this one. It was more of a formal bell shape, I suppose, but it's flopped in all directions, and we thought we'd go with it one year. Instead of fighting nature, we'd go with it, so we've rounded all the outlines, and we've got a very sculptural piece now, with no sharp edges anywhere, all rounded.
Talk me through the process then that goes on now in terms of how you trim this. How do you cut it? How do you shape it? What do you shape it with?
We usually start to trim the topiary in September. You can, if you had a few pieces, less than us, and plenty of time, you could trim them earlier on in the year, and you could then do them twice or 3 times because they grow again in the season. But if we wait till September, we find that the best time, because they won't grow again. We've done them and they stay done till maybe the following June. So it's good for us, and also because we trample on the flower beds. We don't want to start trampling on flower beds in the summer. We wait till the back end of the season, and it's less damaging to the rest of the garden. And really, we start on September the 1st. We get a big hydraulic lifting to do we do the highest pieces, but it's the same process for any of them really. We start at the top and work down the shape. I have used hand shears on some of the topiary, which is nice, and it's nice to pose. Nice to use hand shears, but in reality we use battery electric clippers now, and long reach clippers for virtually everything. And depending how high off the ground it is, we'll use either the hydraulic lift for the highest, scaffolding for the medium ones, or a little hop up to help us get a little height for even some of the small ones. And we start at the top and clip off the whole of this year's growth. So it's a smoothing process, going from one direction and crossing to a different direction. So we have no... we can't see where the shears have been. Every cut's blended into the next one, so the surface is nice and smooth. And then last of all, we usually carry a stick with us, a little cane, and we give the bush a good whacking to knock off all the bits which would otherwise turn brown and haunt us. And it flicks out any bits that are just about to pop out when we turn our back. So if the wind blows, if we give the bush a little thwack, it'll knock those out so we can clip them and move on without fear of them sticking out to haunt us for the rest of the season.
Do you sometimes get to the end of a bush and you suddenly kind of turn around and see there's little bits sticking out that you've missed?
Well, funny you should say that. There's one at the top of that crown there. There's a crowned arch just there, which is quite a big piece, and I did it last week or the week before. And somebody pointed out there's actually right at the top of the very top of the crown, the most obvious piece of all. One of these little shoots has come slightly undone and flicked out. So fortunately we've still got the hydraulic lift and we'll be trundling past it tomorrow, so I'll just stop off and get that little bit. But often what happens is the wind will blow in the winter when we've clipped everything to perfection. Everything's smooth, and then we'll get a gale rattle through here, and that's when some of these shoots will blow out sideways. The hydraulic lift's gone and we just have to look at the things then till the following season. Sometimes pieces die, and if we're quick we can spot a part of a bush going brown. Sometimes it's a piece of wire that's twisted round. Somebody's pulled it back a generation ago to help make the shape, and over time that's cut into the bark, and if we're quick we can remove the wire and the shoot turns green again, but if we're too slow, well, that's a hole in the bush.
So are there wires? If we were to look in here, there will be potentially wires in these trees?
Some of them have wires, some of them have frameworks, but very few really. And if there is wire, we will try and remove it because it seems more damaging to me than useful. And if a piece is such that it's falling apart and you need wires to hold it together, it's time really to cut it hard back. And there's an example of one that we've actually done that with. That piece was so large you couldn't get around this pathway and you couldn't get past it down that pathway. These things do grow ever so slightly every year, even if we try and take them back to zero, and after decades or centuries they can get too big to get past or the shape's lost. So we took a chainsaw to it, and it'll be 10 years before it gets back to a smaller version of itself, but it'll be good then for the next few hundred, because you at 300s you can last 1,000, so you at 300's not so old. So we can rejuvenate the shape if we need to by cutting them hard back, because it does respond. It sprouts again from the old wood, and we can make a small shape again from a big old tree.
I love that sense of perspective. You just said, about 10 years. I mean, we live in a world, don't we, of slightly kind of wanting it to be instant and quick, and we don't go, plant this in about 10 years' time, it'll look great. You know, that's not the world that we live in some ways.
No, it's not, and that's the joy and the benefit and the wonderful thing about being here. It's that sense of perspective and the sense of continuity. These trees weren't planted by me, and yet they're doing their thing down through many generations. So I've planted little yews, and they will be doing their thing, adding to the burden of future gardeners, perhaps adding to their clipping, but they'll be doing their thing in years to come. So it does give me that sense that I can do things, and I don't have to see the result in their entirety immediately.
Do you get visitors from all over the world?
We certainly do, yes. They do come from all over the world to see this garden. We get a lot of local people, and because we're in the Lake District, of course, we pick up a lot of visitors in the Lake District. But people do come from afar, and actually people do contact us from time to time and say, can they come here and will we let them clip the hedges? And I replied to a lady yesterday from New York, wants to come and have a go at the hedges, and we've had Japanese people and quite a few different European countries they've come. Say, well, if you want to come, if you can devote the time, that's great. You can help us in the garden.
And have you travelled yourself teaching other people? And
yes, I've been to I've travelled and done talks and that sort of thing, America and Japan and Europe and stuff. In fact, it doesn't count as that, but for many years we've been going to Portugal. I got to know some people in Portugal via an American visitor in the garden. But this manor house in Portugal and vineyards and accommodation and restaurant. I take the gardeners from here each year on a busman's holiday or the clipper's holiday. They've got a lot of old topiary over there, and we go and we've been shaping it for years. We have a nice time in the sunshine. Plenty of wine, good food, good company, and a bit of topiary clipping in between. So there's no getting away from the work even on holiday sometimes.
You said you like shapes, and there's a danger that once you've told somebody what you think it is, they may decide that they don't think it is what you think it is. But have you done much where people, near to me, there are some elephants clipped into a hedge as you go down towards the tube station. I mean, do you ever do any of that kind of...
That's fantastic in where it's great. There's a few birds in this garden, which is more traditional sort of thing. But in the main, the shapes are shapes here. And we were asked to make a squirrel for a red squirrel charity event here. So we made a red squirrel, and it was quite nice. I left it for a few years, but I've actually allowed it to grow out and rounded it off again. And that's the thing, a shape's never a shape forever unless you continue to make it that shape forever. So we've changed that completely from being a squirrel, because I think that's not what this garden's about, and so it's becoming a more suitable piece of topiary for this old garden. And actually, a Japanese TV program came here a few years ago, and they had a guy that was working as the apprentice here. And in the end, he made this origami crane and said, "Can he make?" He didn't speak English, but he gestured that's what he wanted to make at the end of the week. So we made a bird. And for some years, actually, people had seen the program in Japan, and they always wanted to find this origami bird, or this crane, in the garden. But again, that's the wrong thing for this garden, so we've got now something else. Yes, I chopped its head and its wings off and rounded it off and grew something else. So animals are great in some places, but here I like this other style of gardening.
I like that because in a sense it means that these really old pieces that are so kind of venerable and have been here such a long time, and they feel a bit the guardians in a sense. They don't have to look down and see fashion sweeping through every other piece that's coming in, the newbies.
Yeah.
There's a sense of it. It has there's a style and a feel.
Yeah, there's some of those sort of topiary shapes can be silly or amusing or whatever, and they're great in the right place. But here, we're very lucky that there's a lot of these old shapes. They're geometric or they've flopped open as shapes, but it's a different style, and we're lucky actually. Every piece is different in this garden as well. There's no pairs of pieces that have to get one matching the next one to it, and in a way, if they do flop a little or they look a bit out of shape, that's all part of the history. They're showing their age, and some of them, and they're just more eccentric and in their old age as they take on a lean or whatever.
I have a vision that basically you will always be doing topiary, actually, even after you possibly retire at some point. Will you still be doing topiary?
I don't know, actually. I'm not thinking of retiring in the next couple of years, but that's probably the next big thing in my life. I've still got a bit of go in me, because it's quite hard work, a lifetime of being out. It's nice today, but it's physical work and out in the weather. So I hope to retire before I'm too knackered to do anything else. But I don't know about topiary. I might miss it. I do enjoy it. I was clipping this piece today, and it's just you get lost in it. It's very therapeutic and. Thing. I used to think, it'd be interesting cutting hair, and one of the gardeners many years ago let me have a go, and I've never done anything more nerve-wracking in all my life trying to cut somebody's hair. Never again. But clipping something and shaping something, and actually doing anything craft-wise with your hands is very therapeutic and very pleasant to do. It should be. Everybody should have something along those lines.
And what would you hope for the garden going forward?
I hope the garden carries on. I hope the burden for future generations I've added by planting a few topiary trees, I hope some of them, maybe not all of them, but I hope at least a few of them survive into future generations. I hope more than anything, I know it's an odd thing to say, maybe, but I hope that the next head gardener, whoever takes it on after me, feels they have the same sense of responsibility for the history in these venerable old pieces, as you put it. But I hope they feel they have the same sense of freedom that I've felt since coming here. It has become, if you like, it feels like my garden because I'm the one that's doing all the work and the ideas, and I've gardened it for so long, and it isn't, and I'll move on. But I hope that sense of, well, this isn't the fashion for today, let's rip out everything that Chris did, I did, and do it a different way. I hope that they feel able to do that. I may not want to come in and see it because I've grown fond of the way that I've changed it, but it is that sense of change and that sense of it is the thing for each generation that's so special here. It's not been stuck down in a management plan, and it's not set in a restoration book. This is a garden that has always been gardened, and I've had the pleasure of gardening it with my colleagues for the last 30 odd years, and hopefully somebody will have the pleasure of reinventing the space under these old trees in the next generation and generations going forward.
Thank you for listening today, and thanks to Chris for an amazing tour of Levens Hall. Do check out episode 8 if you haven't already, and there's a Topiary offshoot that takes us inside the manor house and uncovers more of Lucy Boston's story. And for me, a spine-tingling moment listening to Abide With Me on a wind-up gramophone. A new series of Our Plant Stories will begin in January. If you have a story you'd like to share with me, just email me, sally@ourplantstories.com. If you've enjoyed this and would like to leave a review on your podcast app, that would be great. And if you want to support this independent podcast, you can buy me a coffee on the website. And I promise I will not spend it on coffee or plants, but on growing this podcast. Our Plant Stories is presented and produced by me, Sally Flatman. Thank you for listening. If you want to show your support for this podcast via Buy Me a Coffee, then the link is in the show notes or on the website ourplantstories.com. I promise you, your virtual coffee will go towards the podcast, not plants.